Up next, I would like to welcome Dr. Nam Ma, AI executive at VNG Corporation. He will join us from Vietnam. Dr. Ma is a technologist and entrepreneur who specializes in big data, artificial intelligence, and fintech. He received his PhD in computer science from the University of Southern California in 2013, and then worked in successful early-stage AI startups in Silicon Valley. He has later helped build AI businesses in Vietnam and Asia that pioneer AI-powered digital identity platform, credit assessment, and fraud detection solutions, by which tens of millions of people have received their needed financial products. He is currently the founding director of TrueID, a B2B AI business line from VNG Corporation, helping companies such as Asia Commercial Bank, Gojek, FWD, and Home Credit to onboard and serve their customers on digital channels seamlessly and securely. In this session, Dr. Ma will talk to us about AI for financial inclusion in developing countries. Financial inclusion has been one of the biggest topics from UNDP and WB, and it's an especially difficult problem to solve in emerging developing countries. In these countries, a large portion of the population are unbanked or underbanked, having little to no credit history and face difficulties in accessing financial services. However, with alternative data sources and with the recent advances in AI technologies, we can develop AI tech services that enable the banks and FIS to approach and serve the segment more easily and securely. These AI-powered solutions help banks reduce the cost of operations, prevent fraud, and unlock huge value of underserved population. Dr. Ma, please take over.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for the introduction, and it's a great pleasure to be here today. Thanks. So today I'm glad to, as Eric introduced, we are glad to talk about the AI applications for financial inclusion in developing countries. So my talk, the agenda will be, first I would start with some background in Southeast Asia, the opportunity for digital financial services. And then I will talk about the AI-powered solutions to enable digital financial services. And then also, along with those developing this solution, there are a lot of practical challenges in implementation that I think all of us who are working on AI may face, like a long tail problems, the power law, a lot of fraud, and then the bias in AI. So me begin with the background. So in Southeast Asia, we see a significant gap in financial services comparing with the service in UK or in the US. For example, as we can see in the chart, in banking, the penetration is very low in Southeast Asia. It's only about 50% compared with 90% in the US or UK. Similarly, in the other areas, lending, insurance, investment, and payment also. However, at the same time, we also see a trend, a huge opportunity for digital financial services. Like over the last 1 or 2 years after the COVID, 78% of the people are ready for digital services. They switch to a lot of them switch to digital channels for consuming, and the revenue from digital channel has been increased by 160%, and there's the huge opportunity for the digital companies to come and to provide digital financial services. However, one of the it's not easy to build those financial services in Southeast Asia. There are 4 main obstacles in Southeast Asia. The first one is the lack of digital personal identification. That can lead to a lot of fraud if we do not have this one. Another one is that because of the number of unbanked and the number of underserved people, they are a very unreliable credit rating, and it's very costly to build that one for the users. For the other two, the regulatory constraint and cash resilience in consumer, that will be like the obstacle that another two obstacle. However, the first two we believe that AI technology can be developed to help the first two. So let me talk about the AI solutions that we have been building and deliver to those areas. For example, we with those AI solutions, we can build a trust along the entire customer journey from account opening to transaction to servicing. For example, when they want to open a new account, they can just remotely verify their identity with equality technology anywhere and anytime. When they want to do a transaction, we can also automatically authenticate those people to see and to allow them to do those transactions. Um, Similarly, we can also provide the biometric authentication when they want to call customer service for additional services. At the same time, all of this need to be associated with a risk assessment platform where we can evaluate the risk of the transaction or the risk of a new, for example, service like for a loan application. Let me talk about first the first setup solution, the digital biometric identity, by saying what is digital identity first, and then how AI can help establish digital identity. So digital identification is a process to show who is the customer by collecting the customer's credentials and verify and affirm their credentials. And then once we can establish their credentials, we do the authentication, which is to verify if the customer is the one who they claim to be. So we have seen like digital identity verification process before. Traditionally, we can also do that by using human resources, but it may take a lot of time. For example, we can take 30 minutes to go to a branch and then do all the human interaction to open a new bank account. Or in addition, even with the human in the loop, identity fraud can also be they can also easily force the ID card. They can also do the phishing, SIM swap, or even the strawman scam are very common. With AI supported application, it takes only 1 or 2 minutes for a user to open a bank account anywhere, anytime, and the AI technology, we can use face match, deduplication, and anti-spoofing to prevent all of this unauthorized access. We can also detect the ID forgery that is typically overlooked by the human reviewers. So let's take a look at this digital identification flow. It's very simple. The first one, we take the image of the front ID card, and then we take a selfie to confirm that this is the person, the real person, and then we check for identity for the ID card validation. We check for face matching, and we check for face deduplication. And then after all the checks are like verified, are done, we can approve this users. Like we can verify this identity of the user. So that identification is also a step after we verify and prove that identity. We can also standardize those data, and then based on that biometric data, we allow them to do biometric authentication very easily when they do the transaction. It's just a single step like taking a selfie, and that's it, to make sure that the consumer, the user, is the one who claim they are. So I already have shown the process of establishing the trust by establishing the identity of the user. But then, what are the AI applications? What are the AI technology behind that? So the first one, if we look at this identity document proofing, we can see that there are three technology can be used here. The first one is the ID type detection. We need to detect if this is an accepted ID type. The second one is ID OCR, where we can extract automatically the information from the ID card. And then the third one is the ID validity, where we need to look at all the object, all the fields in the ID to make sure that it's valid. The second one, facial recognition. So this is the second area that AI can also help the face detection and embedding. The first one is the face detection. We need to detect the face in the image and then convert that face into a vector by embedding technology. So based on that embedding process, we can do the one face matching or one end face search to look at that face to see if they belong to a blacklist or if they belongs to a set of existing customers. So that's the second AI applications that is usable in this process. And the third one, actually, for example, as we can see, they can also easily fake the face if they can change the face in their identity card, and then they can also take the photo of another person to make sure that it's matching. So we need to have the liveness detection technology to make sure that we can detect if that person is a real one. With True ID, we have two models, passive model and the active model. The passive model is very simple. The user can just take a single image, and then we use AI technology to verify if that is a real person, not a screening, a presentation attack. For the active model, the user needs to move the head back and forth once. It has higher accuracy rate, but the user experience is not that good, and so it's a balance. So they can choose when we allow the user to select these two. It can be configured to fit into different applications. For example, for loan application, typically we allow the active model because it will ensure that that's the real person. For a more simple use case, for example, like login into account or access control, we can just use a single image to make sure that the user experience is good. This is the setup. This is a different story, different case study that we have using the identification technology. For example, the ACB bank, they allow with EQAC, they can onboard about 10,000 new users every day, very fast, very easily. For home credit, they also apply they apply fraud detection for loan applications. For the pay an e-wallet application, they also use biometric authentication to allow users to reset their PIN without having to call or having to go to the customer service for that support. So this is the application that AI technology can bring into their life. So it's the first one where we establish the trust, establish the identity of the user. Along the way, we also need to monitor and assess the risk based on a lot of more data. So in this part, I will talk about the limitation of traditional approaches. We'll talk about risk scoring for transaction using deep learning and machine learning. And then we also talk about risk scoring for new customer using alternative data. So in traditional approach, typically because of, they aggregate the data and then using some simple rules. For example, like just uh, they have some velocity and then they have this volume and then they have some kind of abnormal activity. They will trigger that alert. So there are a high rate of false positive. Another one is that it's very inefficient because a lot of transaction is not flagged in real time. It may take 24 hours to review that transaction, leading to more damage. Also, traditionally, there are lack of data, especially in Southeast Asia, where a lot of people are using cash and they do not have a lot of banking transactions. They don't have like formal access to financial services. So that's why they don't have enough bank financial data to be able to assess the risk. So what we are doing with risk scoring is that we combine the device data, like the OS, the model, or the geolocation, with the transaction data and also the user data like KYC or a network of frequent recipient, and then we build a deep learning neural network. We also do the network analysis to identify cluster of unusual actors, and then based on this data and technology, we can we can have alert for abnormality. We can build the risk profile of the user at real time, and we also identify. This is actually what typically the traditional method have difficulty to do. Machine learning and network analysis can identify the new attack pattern, and this is what I believe that AI and machine learning bring in significant value for us. Another one is that even for the people, for the consumer who have very limited transactional data and limited financial data, we can still give financing product to them based on alternative data. For example, what I have seen in Vietnam or in Southeast Asia is that when a new user come to a financial companies and then apply for a loans, in addition to the registration data like income, employment in residential city, which is very limited, we can typically they can also link with the other alternative data sources, like for example telco data, and then they can have the score from telco, and then they can have cross check with the other data. And Gini is a measurement about the predictive power of the model of a launch default. And as we can see, the AUC, the Gini of the model with alternative data combined is 62. It's really high compared with the data with the alternative data, which is only 46. Gini is only 46. So as we can see, alternative data can bring in a lot of more insights of a user. For example, before I've seen that with the mobile phone data, when a user put both the first and the last names in the contact lists, typically it's a good signal that this user is a good one. If they have a lot of betting apps, that's a bad one. It's not a good one. For financial discipline, if they frequently top up in the promotion period, and then it's a good one. And if they often leave their account balance at zero, it's a bad one. So this is the example of the insight example that we've seen from the mobile phone data with regarding to the loan default. So I have talked about both the digital identification establishment and the risk assessment using AI technology. However, it's not along the way when we implement those technology and then bring that products to the real application. There are a lot of problems. There are a lot of difficulties that we have to solve. Um, some of them are long tail problem. The second one is the power law with systemic frauds, and the third one, bias in AI. So long tail problem, even though very quickly we can collect a set of data and then build a model that can work very well for, I think, 90% of the users. The remaining 10% it took us really a long time to cover, because they are not in the distribution of the typical one. So we have to solve and continuously update those AI model to improve our products. The second one, when we talk about digital financial services, whenever we bring in technology, and especially with AI technology, it's always a probability of there are always like a fraud coming with that technology, and these users, typically just a small set of users, they will create a lot of fraud problems. And so our solution is typically we enhance a lot of technology like liveness detection, face duplication, to monitor and to create to detect abnormal behavior, and especially we also like create a blacklist sharing so that we can prevent those systemic fraudsters. The third one is, I think this is also a really big problem in AI application. It's in everywhere, and especially in financial services. We have seen, like, for example, in EQAC, in biometric identity, a lot of time our model and our product cannot accept the users from a like ethical minority because they are not recognizable. The second one is the bias in credit scoring, where data labeled data used for training contains bias already, like for certain race, sex, leading to the model to like always create bias. And our solution is typically, we know that we need to aware of this problem. So we will not automatically reject those applications immediately, but whenever we see a abnormal or a application with the uncertainty, we have uncertainty score. Whenever the uncertainty score is high, we put that to the manual review, and then when we bring in the human to review it, we collect that data more, and then we try to retrain the model quickly in a very short time, and then to create a new model, and then allow the to and then we remove that bias. So I think awareness is very important in these things. And so that's it. I've talked about two set up solutions that we can use a lot of AI technology to automate the process, to allow remote access, to allow remote account opening, allow a lot of users who have no banking service or financial service before, that now they can also access to the banking service easily, and access to financial product also based on the alternative data. I guess that this is not a big problem in developed country, but in terms of in the developing countries, because of the very low penetration, very of to banking services of the people, AI application. I've seen that AI application have bring in a huge value to financial inclusion in the developing countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nam Ma, for your presentation. It was great. You are a pioneer in AI-powered digital identity platforms, credit assessment, and fraud detection solutions, which aided millions of people in Vietnam and Asia gain access to necessary technology, including the financial products they use every day. In a research or Market Watch report, global artificial intelligence AI hardware market was valued at approximately 9.8 billion USD in 2019, and it is anticipated to grow at a healthy rate of more than 37% between 2020 to 2027. As
Mhm.
of True ID, I would like to ask, and as a B2B AI business line from VNG Corporation, what type of growth do you foresee of AI used globally when it comes to finance, and what obstacles do you feel prevent this type of adoption in less economically thriving areas?
I think AI application, of course, a lot of people talk about the potential of AI, but from my point of view, it's to bring it into the real life problem, we need to be very selective of what technology can be used, because some technology is ready to, for example, if there is a scoring system where people can bring in different product, different services based on the score, then it's applicable to bring in AI applications here. However, for the other applications, it's not ready to use yet. And so I would say that the growth will be huge for AI applications. Um, we've seen AI. We've seen a lot of, especially in Southeast Asia and in Vietnam also, banks, they started to invest a lot of AI into AI application. I can also see, for example, the Kasikorn Bank, a bank from Thailand. Um, they they even built a team to have the um, biometric authentication and biometric identification. And for liveness detection, they also pass a very difficult exam, very difficult examination in liveness detection, and they just got the iBeta 2, which is the I think right now is the highest level of certification for anti-spoofing, and it's amazing to see those banks investing a lot on in AI technology.
I see. Yeah, it's something we really have to tackle, right? These difficulties. We have a lot of questions coming from the audience, and I would like to ask you one here that I found really interesting. This is by Cyril Bedaño. It says, artificial intelligence makes an impact within the financial domain. How can we mitigate the biased data and the data quality, such as corrupted data caused by the algorithm of the system?
It's a very good questions. For bias of the data, there are two things. The first one is training data, and the second one is during the serving. We need to make sure we need to control the input data a lot, because sometimes we train that if we do not aware of the bias inside the training data, it may lead to the bias in model. But then even when we already like aware of the bias in the training data, uh, and then we do not take care of the input during the serving, we can still get a lot of like data input which is not in the distribution of the training data. And it may lead to also like a lot of issue, a lot of inaccuracy in the AI decision. And so for us, as I just mentioned, we need to be aware of the training and the bias in training data. We know that okay, it's potentially we may because we know that our training data is collected from this set of users, and then later when another user who is not in that setup users coming with some very similar distribution, then we may have problem, and we need to build measurement system so that whenever there is a new user with that characteristic, it will automatically alert, and then we will divert, we will forward that users to the manual check where human will look into that. And then once we have enough data for that cases, then we need to retrain the model. So that's how we do.
It's really interesting. It's a very interesting process that we have to look at when we have this kind of data. Doctor, we don't have enough time. I wish we had a lot more, but it's time now to pick the question, the winning question from the audience. You have here a lot of different questions from them. Could you please just take your time, scroll, and look for a question that you think is the most interesting one or the most relevant to the topic?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, let me please give me a second because I haven't seen those questions before.
No problem. Go ahead.
In financial transaction, cool. How AI can be used and a very confidential information. Very interesting questions. Also, we can use. I can talk a lot about this, but because we don't have, we can have federated AI model for that. AI makes an impact within the financial domain. How can we mitigate the bias? That's the question I got. Have national international authority principle trace. Yeah, I think all of them are very relevant. Some of the questions also asked about the how AI technology can help with anti-money laundering, which is actually what we have been doing also. But we do not bring it into the slide deck. One thing I would say that this is a very interesting question because before the traditional one is using data a lot, but a lot of time we also have face recognition. Face recognition can be a huge one in the anti-money laundering, and especially also the next one, the next wave of AI technology is the neural network, the graph neural network, which can also be used in the anti-money laundering also. So I would pick there are a lot of questions that I haven't seen yet. Can I pick later after I read all of them, or
Definitely. Let's give a chance to the audience, to everyone who participated, submitting a question, and so you can actually take your time and look at them and decide which one is the most interesting or relevant to the topic, so we can give them a prize. So, Dr. Nam Ma, AI executive at VNG Corporation. On behalf of our staff and the audience, I would like to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and ideas for financial AI inclusion and ethics and where this sector is heading in the future, right? So we all look forward to following you on LinkedIn and other platforms to learn more about this great topic and everything you guys are developing in different countries. Thank you again for being with us today. And for the audience, please stay tuned. We are going to the next session. See you next time.